The internet believes that this clip links Lil Poppa's killing to Foolio's affiliates. It's also becoming viral worldwide. However, you should hear the whole tale before you believe anything you've read online, because what actually happened to Lil Poppa? Any headline is not nearly as unsettling as the reality. Another one was lost by them. On February 18, 2026, the entire neighborhood awoke to some news that made everyone feel nauseous. At 11:23 a.m., Lil Poppa, whose true name was Janarius Michael Wheeler, a young man from Jacksonville's east side who had spent years pouring his heart out on wax, was declared dead. In Fulton County, Georgia, it is Eastern Time. He was only 25. 25 years old, family. I didn't even come close to realizing his full potential. One of Duvall's most slept-on voices was this cat. And then it was gone. Just a hot subject and an entire city in disarray, no warning, no farewell. Additionally, the news was delivered in an extremely disorganized manner. It doesn't originate from his people. It does not originate from CMG. It doesn't originate from any official. No. On Threads and X, the rumors began to surface. The Duval promo account on Threads was among the first to post it early that morning, stating that the city is in mourning after learning of the death of Jacksonville rapper Lil Poppa. From that point on, every timeline, group chat, and comment area were going nuts. People were in denial, typing things like this: "Lil Poppa news better not be real. Dog was just listening to his new song last night." 5 days prior to his death on February 13th, Poppa had released his most recent song, Out of Town Bay, along with a full music video. The song was still popular and people were still bumping it in the whip. However, by mid-afternoon, the man behind it had simply vanished. TMZ confirmed the death directly from the Fulton County Medical Examiner's office. Newsweek followed closely behind. They all said the same thing. The cause and manner of death are still being looked into. There are no details. There is no proof of foul play. The law is silent, and the internet is chaotic. Additionally, you are well aware of how the streets behave in the absence of an official word. Everyone can become a detective in an instant. Suicide. Within hours, some on X, such as AllMaroon775, posted rumors claiming that Lil Poppa's death was a suicide. Man, check on your people. Other folks were speculating about medications, overdoses, and other bizarre situations. He was discovered lying next to counterfeit medications in a Florida cot, according to one unsubstantiated story, which completely contradicts the documented Georgia location where he was formally pronounced. The podcast guys got right on it. The same day, they broke it down on air, and the way they presented it was different since they didn't go into detail about the entire incident. Hey, what's going on with this Lil Poppa? What does that tell us in relation to what we have? As soon as they sat down, the news began to flood the discussion. No one could concentrate on anything else. Lil Poppa is a rapper from Jacksonville, Florida. I think he was connected to Ace and Young. That's the statement that ties everything together, since you can tell what will be discussed next the moment they bring up Ace. Jacksonville became a cemetery because of the conflict, the corpses, and the animosity. He was undoubtedly involved in the conflict between Foolio's camp and Young Ace's camp, among other things. And that's precisely why all online conspiracy theorists began blaming Foolio's guys. Because if Foolio was KTA, Poppa was on the ATK side of things, and Foolio was recently assassinated by ATK-affiliated individuals in 2024, that math adds up to one word on the streets: retaliation. But in a moment, we'll find out if that maths works out. You had to first recognize how deeply ingrained this beef was. You see, the ATK versus KTA war, which has claimed over 300 lives since 2017, has shaped Jacksonville's rap scene. It's not a typo. Law authorities believed that Poppa was connected to the 1200 East Side gang through his crew cut circle, and the 300 ATK Ace that killed us was on Young Ace's side. Conversely, 6 Block was Foolio's camp representing the North Side Monterey neighborhood, and KTA killed them all. Here's what many folks are unaware of, though. In fact, Foolio and Lil Poppa were cool at first. They were vibing, running in the same circles, and creating music together. In an interview, Foolio himself attested to all of this. When the interviewer mentioned Poppa, the atmosphere instantly changed. Lil Poppa was another startling item you revealed in the record. Well, another Jacksonville musician who puts out good songs. Yes, even the interviewer admitted it. Poppa was a great musician. The man didn't argue with anyone on the blogs. Instead, he stayed in his own lane. But when the streets began to speak, none of it mattered. Foolio was completely honest when asked about the past. We got into a fight. I beat his ass type underscore underscore and underscore underscore in the mall, as well as underscore underscore with my younger cousin coach. From the studio to the hands, that's how it came to be. That's Foolio acknowledging that he and his cousin coach, the Ghost, allegedly jumped Poppa during the infamous Avenue's Mall Foot Locker brawl in 2018 because they thought Poppa was making subtle insults in his songs. How do you go from writing songs with someone to getting into a fight? For example, what is that energy, and how does it even originate? Similar to what took place? A true query. How you transition from the booth to delivering blows. Additionally, Foolio's response cracked the secret on how Jacksonville beef operates. Son, this is what it is. I say people's names correctly when I write a song. I'm honest about it. Foolio therefore considered himself to be genuine. No coded bars, no subliminals. Although he included your name in the song, he thought Poppa was the one making subtle jabs. The mall fight was only one piece, so you don't hear the 1,000 subtle insults A underscore underscore says to me, to aggravate me, and underscore underscore. The ATK KTA blood flood was the larger picture. Lil Poppa, his brother Chi-Chi, and a homeboy were the targets of a drive-by in 2018. Poppa's 2 men were smoked. He was grazed. Purple Hearts, that explosive birth, is among Jax's most unvarnished and heartbreaking songs to date. Through music, the conflict continued to intensify. Foolio's When I See You and ATK's Who I Smoke became their respective anthems. Each song names the deceased members of the opposing camp. However, Poppa deliberately chose not to release diss tunes. He remained on his reflective tip, pain music, melodic trap, and honest discussion of survival and depression, and that said a lot. Then, on June 23, 2024, while celebrating his 26th birthday in Tampa, Foolio was discovered to be deficient. Ambushed. Rashad Murphy, also known as Poppy, from the ATK-affiliated 1200 faction, was one of the suspects that was booked. However, Poppa's name was not mentioned in any of the reports. And his reaction, he came to life even more. All reflection, no disses. He discussed karma. What a man sows, he reaps. He was commended on the internet for his maturity. According to Reddit, Poppa's reaction to Foolio's passing was the best. You can understand why the internet began calling for retribution when Poppa himself ended up dead less than 2 years later. Remember 6 blocks, KTA? Remember, that's the story. Here's the truth, though. There is not a single piece of reliable information that connects Lil Poppa's demise to Foolio's affiliates. Not one. By 2021, the beef was said to have cooled. Poppa handled every aspect of Foolio's death with grace, from the investigation's findings to his own personal hardships rather than operations. But when there is a story to promote, the internet doesn't give a damn about the evidence. And that's precisely what made the entire narrative take off. Okay. Because Lil Poppa wasn't just some random jit from the hood who caught a hot streak. You had to understand him beyond the beefs, gang ties, and sensationalism in order to truly appreciate the scope of what we lost on February 18th. Born on March 18, 2000, Janarius Michael Wheeler grew up on Jacksonville's east side, an area of Duval where funerals are more frequent than birthday celebrations and the murder rate is low. He went from the trenches to the majors. He was exposed to ATK as a child thanks to cats like Whopper and Spinner Bins. Additionally, the authorities identified his squad cut circle as being associated with the 1200 East Side Gang. That's the surroundings. He grew from that soil. But Poppa was different, even in the midst of all that dead, all that static, and all that smoke. Poppa was creating melodic, reflective songs about suffering, survival, and depression, things that no one in Jacksonville was truly touching like that, while every other rapper in the city was releasing drill records and diss tracks. And it was evident in the descriptions of his sound. Check out what this artist had to say about Poppa's uniqueness. I also adore Lil Poppa. Let's begin there. Yes, I adore him. His sound seems odd to me. And in a city full of drill rappers vying for attention, that's what everyone said about Poppa. This man created a full lane that was all his own. Even other artists were taken aback by Poppa's desire to work with them. He had that kind of enthusiasm. Modest, grounded, and merely attempting to create authentic music with those that shared his vibe. It was the Under Investigation mixtape series that made Bruh famous. His body of work served as his industry calling card. Evidence that a young person from Duval's gutter could create deeply human and intimate joints that were more than just street. The 2018 drive-by that killed his homeboys and left him severely damaged gave rise to songs like Purple Hearts. It was more than just music. They were admissions, sessions of therapy over music. Poppa survivors feel regret and guilt for being the ones who survived. You could tell that this wasn't a cap when the INI next to you didn't. This was genuine suffering, and the truth came to light. In 2022, Lil Poppa joined CMG, Yodi's collective music group, in collaboration with Interscope Records. The glow-up was meant to be that. The ticket from hood legend to nationwide star was meant to be that. His versatility was demonstrated by songs like Love and War. Blessed, I suppose, was plunging headfirst into sadness. Because he was. Rapping about mental health in songs like Mind Over Matter at a time when going to treatment was still frowned upon in society. Fans who truly connected with him and could hear the suffering beneath the songs rallied around him like warriors. They devotedly streamed his songs. In their captions, they cited his bars. His words resonated with them. However, Poppa was engaged in struggles that the bag was unable to resolve beneath all that speed, grind, and upward trajectory. The sickle cell anemia comes first. Bro had been candid about his battle with sickle cell disease, which causes excruciating periods of pain that leave you lying on your back for days. Additionally, the accompanying pain management typically entails strong medicine. Now, managing chronic pain while juggling a touring schedule, recording schedule, and label duties would be too much for most individuals to handle. The danger increases dramatically when you take into account the fentanyl crisis, which involves fake medications that resemble legitimate drugs but contain enough synthetic material to kill a horse. The personal losses then continued to mount. There were more than simply bullet wounds from the 2018 shooting. His mental state was completely destroyed, and he took the pain and survivor's guilt into every session and performance. To make matters worse, his homeboy Corbin Johnson was abducted and murdered during the ATK-TA conflict. Additionally, rumors of an alleged split and the death of a family member circulated in the weeks prior to his passing. The kind of punches that have the power to push someone who is already on the edge over it. Then there were Poppa's own remarks. This is the section that caused the entire internet to tremble. He posted an Instagram story with lyrics from Rod Wave's Let It Go just 12 hours before his death was officially announced. Both you and I are aware of what transpired. The world won't. That was sufficiently mysterious. However, he had tweeted something much more eerie 2 weeks prior. Additionally, an artist who spoke with him at the time related precisely what Poppa had said to them over the phone. Woke up, read me a passage from the Bible, had breakfast with my sister, and discussed it with God. That is a direct quote from Poppa. He was discussing his spirit and his morning ritual when he laid the next thing on them. Do you understand what I mean? He then placed it on me. I have one more album, EP, or mixtape, whatever it may be. Perhaps when he stated that, people assumed he was referring to retiring from the game, taking a vacation, or reinventing himself. However, those words now struck like a goods train. With this, the conspiracy theorists went full tinfoil hat. Stop __ lying. Lil Poppa didn't start having all DC problems till he signed with Yo Gotti, wrote one fan on X in reference to the 2022 CMG signing. Is there any solid proof that the label was the cause of his issues? No, not at all. However, the remark struck a chord with people on the streets. The idea that once you commit to a major, the system will devour you. With their Geatria number 97 gibberish and sacrificial beliefs, others went even farther off the deep end. There is no proof, but it strikes a chord when you've witnessed too many young talents pass away inexplicably. If Poppa was paying attention, he was demonstrating to the entire world where his head was. And that's precisely what the podcast team noted. That's one viewpoint, and it's a heavy one. However, the discussion they had about the reasons behind this, the culture, and the pressure is what matters most, and we will focus on it in part 3. Lil Poppa is mourned by the entire culture. The cultural fallout is felt in waves when a young artist, particularly one as genuine, raw, and gifted as Lil Poppa, checks out. Shock is the first wave. Grief is the second wave. Everyone who has ever shared a stage, a studio, a phone conversation, or a playlist with that individual comes up to offer their thoughts during the third wave. And some of the most sincere, honest, and heartbreaking responses the rap game has seen in years were the tributes that came in for Poppa, bro. One of the first OGs to step up was Boosie. He and Poppa had collaborated on songs like Untamed. This was not merely a required REP post, therefore. The youth were actually enthralled with this man. Take note of how he opened it. I'm not going to tip you. Man, thug in peace to the lip popper. Yes, that's my tiny __. That's not industry talk, you know. Family, that's true love. I was always looked up to and supported. Boosie felt my __. Poppa's support and admiration for him and returned the favor. Sil ___ as well. Poppa, give me a tip. It was also audible in Boo's voice. The incredulity gave way to genuine, unadulterated sorrow. Even Boosie's children were having a great time with Poppa. That informs you exactly how far he was able to reach. From the trenches to the living rooms, from the streets to the families. The artist, who had actually spoken with Poppa on the phone, heard the enthusiasm in his voice, and now had to live with the knowledge that one of their final talks was full of promise that would never be realized, had perhaps the most impactful response. A co-signed artist's ambition is to collaborate with Poppa and get a song straight from him. It hurts differently to know that the person who sent you that track is no longer with you. The Jacksonville native Lil Duval, on the other hand, wrote, "This one really hurt me because I really cared about Poppa. The majority of Jacksonville knew him prior to his notoriety. That is the epitome of hood love. Loving someone as a person first, knowing them before record agreements, streams, or anything else related to the industry." As thousands of people watched, Big Pluto reacted live on stream, clearly shaken and finding it difficult to comprehend the news. You could hear the horror in real time as his girl also learned the news. Additionally, one of Poppa's first partners, Caroline Barryline Diaz, CEO of Great Day Records, stated, "My little brother is gone." Fan tributes on social media were as impactful. "Poppa, I love you so much. I am so broken. My little brother is gone. That isn't business talk. That's family." Itasha726 said, "The news of Lil Poppa's death is devastating." A student, Casabala, posted on X, "Sad news. Jacksonville rapper Lil Poppa has passed away at just 25. RIP to a rising talent. RIP departed far too soon." Fans' comments about how sleepy he was while he was living were the ones that truly affected me. One of the greatest talents of our generation, Rippy Lil Poppa. Crazy underrated. And that's always how it goes, isn't it? We don't give anybody flowers until the casket gets closed. Some Reddit users on Duval County retaliated against the cheesy remarks, pointing out that some of you got some really cheesy responses to a human being's death. Real ones checked that energy. The real discussion took place on the podcast because they didn't just lament the man. They explained why this continues to happen to young Black musicians. It seems that many people who have been following the lore closely didn't find this surprising because, I suppose, they've been people who were really tapped into Poppa's content. They saw the signs in his lyrics, in his posts, and in his energy. And that's the hardest part. Consider what Poppa went through by the time he was 25. Growing up in one of the nation's most dangerous cities, surviving a shooting that killed his friends, dealing with chronic illness, label pressure, and personal losses piling up like unpaid bills. And then one of the hosts really brought it home by talking about the pressure the Black community specifically puts on itself. He had a show scheduled in New Orleans for March as part of his Almost Normal Again tour, which, when you sit with it, Tells you everything about where his head was. I forgot I dropped the sun today. Dustin isn't out right now. You guys go get that __ dude. It's out on all platforms, man. Poppa himself showed the world on one of his Instagram lives that he was still moving, still grinding, and still out here. Let me bring this whole thing home. The Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office investigation is still ongoing. Toxicology and autopsy results may take weeks. Until those results are obtained, everything else, including theories, rumors, and viral footage that purports to show what actually happened, is conjecture. That's Popo on Instagram live promoting his music, still working hard, still pushing his art out to the world, a man who is still in the fight and still wanted people to hear his music. We know for sure that a 25-year-old father, artist, and Duval legend has passed away. His catalog will receive fresh attention as fans return to the bars that initially drew them in, and streaming numbers will soar as they always do when we lose one of our own. But beyond the streams, tributes, and trending topics, the real lesson is this: check on your people for real. Not just a why text, not just a like on their post. Check on them. If you or someone you know is going through a difficult time, call or text 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free. Sometimes the people who appear to have everything together are the ones fighting the hardest battles behind closed doors, and by the time the signs become obvious, it might already be too late. Thug in peace. Lil Poppa Duval legend. Legend across the world. Long live Poppa. Smash that like, leave a comment with your favorite Poppa song, and subscribe if you're not already. It's private and might mean the difference between losing another legend and keeping one here. While they are still here to hear it, check on your people and express your affection for them. Until the next time, continue to be risky, secure, and